Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It's where you're going to find everything you need for the show. We are also all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, Holy BatCast, and you will find us. And we are on Patreon, so if you're a fan of the show and would like to support the show, become a more official part of the family, you can do that at patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, huge thank you to everybody who has taken the time out of their lives to do that for us. We really do appreciate it. We are a proud part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you want to check out some of the other shows there, you can go to rf4rm.com and check something else out. Lots of shows. And as always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. Hi, and if you'd like to follow me when I'm not talking about Batman, you can find me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we're going to be catching up on some news, a little bit of DC film stuff. Actually, it's mostly DC film stuff, but it's all kind of rumor stuff, so, something to talk about. We'll review another episode of Batman the Animated Series, and then we're going to answer your questions, as always, in the Wayne Manor mailbox. Fortunately, I'm not a solo act. I got a partner in crime. The teller to my pen. That's what I was trying to say, but I couldn't remember Teller's name. But a little more conversational than Teller is. It's Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie.
I was going to ask, is that your way of telling me I have to be quiet for this episode or what?
I mean, no, I would never do that.
All right. So I learned something new in my week off.
Okay.
Gather around, kids. Grandpa Jamie's going to tell you a story. Did you guys know how many women send their underwear to Chris Hemsworth every week?
Oh, interesting. Good.
Now, Brendan, he was on detail for the other Hemsworth brothers, and they don't get nearly the underwear that Chris got. But Chris, he gets a lot. It's crazy.
Oh, you made Brendan get the lesser Hemsworth brothers?
Well, it only seemed fair.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he's smaller. He could carry less.
Right. There you go.
So it makes sense.
That's our story. We're sticking to it.
That's good. Well, I'm glad. Sounds like it was a worthwhile endeavor. I'm glad
Australian prisons are glorious. They serve beer at lunch.
Do they serve Fosters?
Yeah, I mean, I said beer, and I'm in Australia. Fosters. I mean, what else is there but Fosters? I mean, that's all they got.
It's true. You are speaking Australian when you say that. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad it all went okay. Unfortunately, Brendan can't join this episode. He's unavailable. He's currently at the dentist. So, yeah, just at the dentist. Getting his teeth checked out at the dentist. I should probably add that the dentist he goes to, if you want to go find him, the best way to do that is the address. It's P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. So that's the dentist that Brendan goes to.
You can't see it, but that joke just flew straight over my head.
Oh.
Sorry.
Disappointed in you. Disappointed.
Most people are. That's all right.
Now I know how your parents feel. Anyway, let's get started. We wanted to catch up on just what's the talk? What's going on out there? So the first thing is that, of course, we know we've got some DC movies coming our way. And so there was just a licensing expo a week and a half ago-ish. Maybe 2 weeks ago, and because of that licensing expo, we got our first official, and I'm still using official somewhat loosely, look at Zachary Levi as Shazam, because he, the man himself, posted an Instagram of him standing next to a huge poster of his own face as Shazam, enjoying a frosty beverage. And so he sent this out there, the internet picked it up, and I guess it's our first official look, even though we didn't get the actual image, we just got him in front of the image. But because there are wizards on the internet, they were still able to take that, manipulate it, and turn it into a meme. And so we've seen Shazam sipping his drink in all kinds of different situations over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, those have actually replaced my evil heifer memes on Twitter. I'm getting a huge kick out of those.
And you know who else is getting a huge kick out of those? David Sandberg, the director.
Yes.
He's been sharing them and retweeting them, and apparently he made his own with BVS with Shazam in the background while Batman and Superman were fighting, sipping his drink. So it's been super fun. I love it. Like, yeah. What before I get into it, what were your thoughts on this first look at Shazam?
I like it. I mean, it's definitely giving it a more playful tone, obviously, with him and this big gulp drink in his hand, which I can't figure out if it's iced tea or soda or what it is, but I guess it's not important. Otherwise, they would have said something on the side.
I like to believe it's cherry Coke.
Okay, yeah, we'll go
I
with
want to
that.
believe that Shazam enjoys what I enjoy.
There you go. That's just it, people. Shazam enjoys whatever you enjoy. So whatever you want to be in the cup, that's what's in the cup. There, we'll go with that.
So if it was Roman, it would be like hardest, bitterest beer.
It would be Fisherman's Breath Whale Urine IPA.
Okay, great. But I mean, obviously they know the movie they're making, and this photo shows it, which I like. I actually like that they're embracing the goofier side of Shazam. They should. And they've been saying it all along. They've been saying, "Oh, it's a family film. It's big with superheroes. You know, Shazam is a big kid." And this first image of him with this drink, like, it shows the childlike quality of Shazam. So I dig the hell out of it. I think it's super fun.
I fully agree. I mean, if I handed my kids a cup that size, that would be the same look they had on their face while they were drinking it. I mean, they'd be all over it. And
that's the face I make when I'm at the movies and I have my huge cherry Coke.
There you go.
It could very well be me.
Go ahead. I didn't hear what you said.
No, that's okay. I just said that could very well be me.
Yeah. I've seen the picture take some flack. You know, people saying that DC's trying to be Deadpool and it's too goofy and everything else. It's like, guys, really, it was never going to be like the Dark Universe from front to back. I mean, we need different tones to be in this. I appreciate the fact that Marvel has different tones for their movies, even if I don't like all of the tones in the way that they play out in some of them. Looking at you, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Thor Ragnarok. But the point is the diversity of having something unique and different in there is not a bad thing because it gets more audience appeal. It gets you something different to watch when you're sitting in the seats. I mean, this is all very positive. And first and foremost, I really should have said, I like the idea that they are centering this around a more family-friendly tone because as everybody's heard me complain, I think they've gone just a little bit too dark, mature, grown up, or whatever you want to call it, with some of these other things lately. So it's good to know that this kind of stuff can still be shared with a family without a whole lot of worry. So I'm all for it. I think it's great.
No, it should be. Here's the thing. Like, if there's ever a character that should be more kid-friendly, it's Shazam, because he's a damn kid. Shazam shouldn't be dark and gritty and brooding. And so I think, I think that is a good thing, because they should be branching out. The tone that we've had so far, and I think there has been some varied tone, but some of that tone hasn't worked for a lot of people, and so why wouldn't you vary it up? That's what your universe should give you, the flexibility to change the tone to meet the character that you're exploring. Wonder Woman's tone is different than Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel, but this is obviously a little more drastic than that, but it's totally suitable for the character. But yeah, I saw the thing too, the Deadpool thing. Is that, apparently Deadpool's now the only superhero who can be somewhat light, apparently. So yeah, I think that was a bit of stretching, trying to find a problem here. For me, I'm like, he looks exactly like Shazam. I love Zachary Levi's passion and enthusiasm. It's infectious. Just the photo of him next to himself, is just like pure joy in his face, which I love. And yeah, it's what Shazam should be. He looks great. He should be a little silly. He should be a little goofy, because that's who the character is. I love it.
Right. And bring it on. I'm ready to see this thing. I really am.
And I think that the fact that the image took on a little bit of a life of its own is perfect premature marketing for the movie. I think it allowed a lot more, awareness than something a little more traditional would have. I don't think that was the goal, but that's certainly what happened. And because of it, I think it actually started getting the word out about the movie.
Yeah, meme marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
There was actually some of that going on with the one of the president's campaign or presidential candidate campaigns in the last election. They actually were hiring people to make political memes and send them out on social media.
Mm-hmm. Because people share them. Yep.
Right. So I mean, it's cheap advertising.
Yeah. The world we live in. So when this came out, I think I shared it on our Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, this is great! How fun!" That's kind of it. And someone who follows me or found the tweet or whatever was like, "Yeah, and still nothing for Aquaman," which the fans are starting to get like that with Aquaman. I'm like, okay, remember when that happened with Wonder Woman? Relax. They're not sleeping on Aquaman. It's going to happen when it's going to happen.
Well,
but
you guys didn't hear? I mean, that's really the breaking news of the week. I'm in charge of the DC marketing campaign now, so you're not getting the Aquaman trailer until Shazam airs next year.
Perfect. Makes perfect sense. I like it. It's non-traditional, but I'm down with it.
There you go.
But I thought that was, I was like, so a picture of Shazam is going to be a reason to complain about Aquaman now? Okay. And what was so amusing is that, like, literally a day later, we find out that the image right next to Shazam is of Aquaman. So for this licensing expo, for the DC whatever banner, mural, whatever you want to call it, it was Shazam, it was Aquaman, and then it was Wonder Woman 2. And so, yeah, Aquaman was right there next to Shazam because they're pushing that too. But we get a look at Aquaman's new duds, or I think I'm going to say probably one of his new suits. I wouldn't say it's the only new suit. I still am fully confident that we're going to see him in the classic gold and green. But this is more of like the kind of crustacean shell looking type suit armor. Almost like a Pirates of the Caribbean-y type look. So did you get a chance to look at this one, Jamie?
I never found a really good image of it to where I could see any detail of it. I mean, literally the couple images I saw, it could have been like a cut and paste out of like a Justice League poster. I mean, I couldn't make out heads or tails for the details on the costume, and he's got that typical pissed off facial expression on it, which is perfectly fine, but it just doesn't look. The images I saw don't look any different than some of the images I saw for the Justice League marketing campaign. So I don't have a lot to say about this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, he still looks like the same character. He still looks the same, but the outfit is indeed different. Again,
I was hoping to find an image of that, like what we got with the Shazam image being done. Where it was doctored, cleared up, whatever. But I never saw an Aquaman.
Well, guess what? I just sent it to you.
Oh, well, I'll take a look then.
Why don't you take a little peek, and I'll go ahead and I'll stretch. So if you guys haven't seen this image, again, he has like kind of shoulder armor that look almost seashell-like. It's still a very orangish color scheme on the top, but it has this sort of under-the-sea wear and tear, again, that you might see in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He's holding the trident. What's
Sorry.
that?
I'm just laughing that he's got all this armor and stuff on, but he's still not got a shirt. That cracks me up because I keep making the jokes about how he doesn't own a shirt.
Right. So a new look at Aquaman. It is more of that, and I know that there were even far more zealous fans than I that matched this up with some set photos and going, oh yeah, we saw this. They were set photos I might have seen, but I don't pay super close attention to those. But anyway, I dig it. I like that he continues to get a better look, or different looks. I think I like this outfit better than the Justice League one. The Justice League one was just a little too like rubbery. This looks a little more legit. So anyway,
it definitely has that under the sea feel to it. You're absolutely right. I kind of dig it though. I mean, I don't know that it's the aesthetic choice I want to see him run around with for 2 hours, but as you said, if he's got more than one, then yeah, switch it up. It looks pretty good to me.
We know from the first official still that it's like jeans and no shirt, and then we know he's got this kind of regal under the sea armor. And again, we've already heard it, and I believe it, that we're going to see the traditional outfit at least by the end.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. That'll work.
I dig it too. I mean, looks good. So that is exciting. Speaking of costumes, though, and different costumes, I don't know if you've been paying much attention, but Zack Snyder has been very active on Vero. So even though
there's no, I took a look at Vero one day, and then I realized I don't want another social media platform because I can barely stand the two that I'm on now. So I have not paid any attention to this. So this is all a surprise for me. So I'm listening.
Oh, good. Well, I am on Vero, but I never check it. I only signed up so I could make sure that when Zack Snyder shared stuff that it was legit. So I would see someone post, "Oh, this just came from Zack Snyder," and so I have Vero so I can go make sure that it actually was and it wasn't faked. That's really the only reason I have Vero. I don't even know how to use Vero. I just signed up for it. But anyway, Zach remains pretty active on it, and he's been sharing a lot of DC stuff. And so a few days ago, he shared the very first costume test of the Flash, and it's the costume that we saw in Justice League. It's same one. So this was the final costume, but people were asking questions, and he's very engaging on Vero. He'll share and talk with the fans a lot. And he confirmed, this is the more interesting thing. The photo is great, but it's, we know what the Flash looks like, so it's not news for me. But he did share, remember way back when there were rumors and there was talk that the Flash was going to get a second costume in Justice League?
Yes.
And we all thought that was going to happen. We were all waiting for that. And then until we saw the movie, we were like, oh, wait, there was no second costume. Where did this come from? And someone asked Zach about it, and he said that, yes, there was a plan for a second upgraded costume, but he changed his mind because he wanted whoever was doing the solo Flash movie to be able to do it, to put their own stamp on it. He didn't want to have to dictate what the solo Flash director or directors could use, and so he decided not to do a second suit in Justice League.
That's mighty considerate of him.
I know. I thought that was actually really interesting. Somehow I missed that, but as I was digging up of what would be interesting to talk about today, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Which explains a lot, which explains why we were like, hey, I thought the Flash was getting another outfit. But it makes perfect sense that Zach would go, no, this is Justice League outfit, and then whoever does the solo film, you do you. You do your outfit.
If I was the director handling the Flash movie, I'd sure as hell send him a thank you card and a fruit basket for that. But
I know.
Not everybody thinks the way I do.
He also shared the other day, yesterday? 2 days ago? Anyway, he also shared the very first photo shoot of the Trinity. And so it is an image of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman standing in front of a backdrop, all together, all three of them together in the same room. He captioned it, "First time Trinity together." Also, that look from Batman, priceless, because Batman's looking towards Wonder Woman. And this got shared quite a bit, actually. And I should, we've already seen these guys. We've seen them in multiple movies now. So it shouldn't be a big deal to see another photo of them, but I'll be damned if it still doesn't work for me. I'll be damned if I didn't look at this photo and go, oh man, that's so cool. Because it's just the three of them standing there, but my God, they look amazing.
I get where you're coming from, because if you remember way back in the day when back when I still listened to, the Kevin Smith podcast, and he wasn't overtaken by people that I can't stand. He was mentioning that he
Brendan.
was... Huh? Oh God.
Like Brendan.
Yeah, he was doing one of his shows, and he had mentioned that he was someplace where Zack Snyder was. I don't remember the circumstances or any of that, but Snyder handed him his phone, and he said, "Oh my God, is that the costume for the movie?" And he was getting so excited, and he's like, "Look closer, that's your boy." And it was actually Affleck wearing the costume. Mm-hmm. And then even after the images started coming out, Kevin Smith just kept saying, "Nope, that ain't the image he showed me." So I've always been curious what the image was that Zack Snyder showed to Kevin Smith that got him so excited, because he talked about it for weeks after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Understandably so. So no, I totally get where you're coming from, because I've always wanted to know what that picture was.
Yeah, me too. Well, and I feel like over the past year and a half, we've gotten a lot of different angles of that very first photo that Zack Snyder did release of Ben Affleck as Batman next to the Batmobile. There was the one he released, and then over the past year, he'd released other shots from that same shoot. And every single one of them were all variations on the same thing of Ben Affleck as Batman standing next to the Batmobile. But every single shot, I'm like, oh, that one's so good. Oh, that one's so good. No, that one's so good. Like there's no way to not shoot those things and make them look amazing. And so every single shot was great. And it's kind of the same thing here. I'm looking at Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and they look perfect. They look so good. I'm looking at Affleck in that bat suit, and yeah, he's looking towards Gal as Wonder Woman, and God, he just looks amazing. So there's not like a lot of news there, but it's just another photo that he shared, and it's an awesome photo.
I'm sure it's getting people stirred up to try and pry more information out of him, but he's pretty coy about that stuff. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I mean, he'll just drop a nugget one day, and then, I won't hear another word about it for weeks, months, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of nice that, like, of course, he's taken something of a step away from the DC films. He did confirm this week that he is still a producer on Wonder Woman 2, so he's not completely detached from it. But even though, obviously, with what happened with Justice League, and fans have asked questions about Justice League, and he's answered pretty honestly about those, even though it's like he can't turn that passion off, and so he still just shares this stuff.
I would love to sit down and have a couple beers with that guy and just have a candid conversation.
Doesn't
even have to be about the movies, just like as a person, without even asking him questions involving this stuff. Because he just strikes me, and I may be way out of line here because I don't know him. I'm just going by what I gather and hear and everything. You met him, and you mentioned that he was very gracious with you and everything. So he just strikes me as a really cool guy that would be, fun to hang out with for a little while. Yeah, and I like hearing stories like that about people in celebrity status. I think I just think it's cool because there's a lot of stories you hear that aren't like this,
Mm-hmm. Well, the time I met him, it was at the grand opening of this new part of the Warner Brothers tour on the Warner Brothers lot. And apparently they invited everyone, like from the Warner Brothers stable of celebrities. Apparently they invited everybody to this. But he was one of the few that showed up. Which says something there, like of how much he loves what he does, and he loves who he's doing it with, and he showed up. And these celebrities are very, very busy people. Director, I mean, that was when he was in post-production on BVS, but he found the time to come anyway, which even that I think says a lot about him.
Sure.
And yeah, I would love to sit down and chat with him too, but I wouldn't want to talk about Batman. I'd want to find out what his favorite Police Academy movie is.
I want to talk to him, but if I'm going to talk to him about movies, I'm going to talk to him about Sucker Punch. Because I have questions.
Yeah, so do I. Anyway, but again, because like he's on there and he's active on Vero, people ask him questions, and someone asked him what his favorite shot of Batman from BVS and I guess Justice League as well. What was his favorite Batman shot from those movies? And he said, at the end of BVS, before the Pieta, which was the scene where Batman and Wonder Woman carry Superman, Batman comes forward through some rubble, and he looks like the weight of the world is on his shoulder, but steady and transformed by sacrifice. So it's that shot of like right after the death of Superman, of him coming out from behind that rubble. There's fire behind him, and
that was used in the trailer, if I recall.
Yeah, it was in the trailer. Yeah. Exactly. That is his favorite shot of Batman from the movies he directed. I
ain't even mad at that.
Yeah, it's a good one. I guess that's why he put it in the trailer, huh?
Yeah.
He's like, I love that shot. Anyway, this does raise a little question, and this is, and this is where we start getting to some rumor. And rumor's not news. Let's be clear about that. Rumors are not news. They're rumors. That's why there's a different word for it. But kind of interesting to chat about anyway. But of course, any of these rumors you take with a huge shaker of salt because, God, things change every day. But there was some swirl online, I think it was last week, that Ben Affleck actually wants to re-sign for a couple more movies as Batman. And I know that like we've gone back and forth about like, oh, he's leaving, he's staying, he's leaving, he's staying. And it's kind of exhausting. And I get that. And I apologize to everybody who's like, I don't ever want to hear, is Affleck staying or going again? I hear you. I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from. But it was interesting because it was kind of the first time in a year where the rumor was the opposite. The rumor was that he's actually like, no, he wants to keep doing it. So what were your thoughts on that?
The one piece that I happened to read on that, and it was a glancing thing. I don't ever stick around to see who did it or anything else, because at that point I had no idea that this was picking up steam, so to speak. It was just one of those things I glanced across and just kind of shrugged and went, yeah, whatever, okay. Apparently he's been hitting the gym like an absolute animal right now, and they're saying that coincided with the rumor of him wanting to return to the part in Batman. He's getting himself back into Batman shape is basically what it said. And I was like,
wow.
Okay. And I don't, complete speculation. I mean, he could just be going to the gym because he wants to go to the gym. He could be going because he's tired of people taking shots of his back tattoo and saying how flabby he looks. I mean, who knows? I don't have any idea. But if it is for Batman, oh God, I would be so happy. I would be so happy. But I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not going to do it. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I had already accepted, like, no, we're going to get a new Batman. I'd already accepted that.
It was essentially a foregone conclusion. I mean, we'd all taken it. But, what else goes hand in hand with that is the news from not very long before that, where somebody asked Gyllenhaal about whether or not he was going to be Batman, and he said no.
Yeah, so
all
I was actually going to
line up.
I was going to kind of go towards that. When he said no, I didn't take that to mean anything, because even if the answer was yes, he's not allowed to say it yet. So of course he's going to say no.
Right.
Like there's no reason to say anything otherwise. You're not allowed to say anything otherwise. So when they asked him, he kind of said, "Oh, that's an interesting question," and he paused, and then he went, "No," and so it didn't mean anything. Aquaman said, Jason Momoa said no when asked if he was going to play Aquaman until it was.
I love that you immediately called him Aquaman. He is Aquaman in your brain now. That's perfect.
Same difference. So I didn't give any real weight to him saying no, because he couldn't say yes, even if the answer was yes. But what I do think was telling is that we got the news that he is going to play Mysterio in the next Spider-Man film. And off topic, I love the idea of them using Mysterio. I think that's awesome. Jake Gyllenhaal's a great actor. I think he'll be a great Mysterio, so I'm all for that. But when that came out, everyone was like, oh, guess he's not Batman anymore, because everybody just assumed at this point that he was the next one in line. Much like Affleck leaving, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. It was like, okay, well, Affleck's going to step out soonish, and Gyllenhaal's going to step in. And we all just kind of assumed that was how it was going to go down. And as soon as they announced Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, which I still not sure is final, but it sounds pretty much like a done deal. When they announced that, I was like, it makes me wonder if he was on the hook for Batman. And then Affleck had a change of heart, and he said, you know what? I want to keep doing it. And Warner Brothers was like, hey, Jake, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging in there. We do appreciate it, but we're not going to need you after all. So they released him, and then he could go do what he wanted, and he signed up to do Mysterio.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like I say, it falls in line. However, it could just be something as simple as maybe they made him an offer, but he had to sign like a 5-picture deal, and he didn't want to do it, versus Mysterio, that's one and done,
That's true, too. I mean, that could be, he might not have wanted to make the commitment.
I'm trying to keep things in a realistic set here. There are any number of, it's like Crisis on Infinite News here. I mean, there's any number of possibilities out there that could cause one thing to happen from another and anything else. So, again, I would love it if your theory worked and Affleck is back and he's going to do Batman for at least 2 more movies. I would think that was magnificent. But, again, I'm tired of getting burned by rumors, so I refuse to set my heart on any of them at this point.
Well, and that's just it. And I think that's what we all should do. Everyone out there listening, it's like, yeah, it's fun to talk about, but let's, just see how it plays out. Like, don't get your hopes up. It'll be what it'll be. But it was interesting. So that is the rumor, is that he's going to sign on for 2 more movies with an option for more. And, maybe that was the middle ground they found with Matt Reeves. And there are a lot of things that could have changed Ben Affleck's mind. It could have, maybe as Matt Reeves has been developing the film, he's been working with Ben, and Ben's like, you know what? I actually really like where this is headed. I want to be a part of it. Maybe. And maybe they agreed, let's worry about 2. Maybe a trilogy is too much to think about right now. Let's worry about 2, but then an option for a 3rd. Maybe. I also think, as we know, Ben had a shit time last year. A real shit time, personally and professionally. Yep. Batman stuff completely aside, like not even DC related, but he had a really rough year. And again, you brought up some of that of the press has been ripping him apart for the back tattoo and just these photos of him and all this stuff. And so he's been dragged through the mud a little bit in the past year, and he's lived through that before. Now, I don't know how much you pay attention to his Twitter, but I've got him on notifications. He doesn't tweet much, but on the rare occasion that he's been tweeting in the past 2 months, it's always been very charitable and positive. He's only been sharing these very altruistic things of charities and doing the right thing, and that's been his public active stuff is that. And I really get the impression that he's in the process of rebuilding his image. And I think that Batman could go a long way in that process. And so I think that also might factor into it. Is like, you know what? Like, put my energy towards all these charitable causes, get better, get back into shape. People love me as Batman, and because his image took a real hard hit last year. Right.
And again, we point out, and we've mentioned this in the past, but I mean, it's worth mentioning one more time. Even many of the big detractors out there against, say, BVS and Justice League don't criticize him as Batman. Most people are pretty positive on his look and portrayal and everything else. They may not be okay with all of the specific character choices and whatnot that were written for it. But as far as him in the role, I don't see a lot of flack against it, other than, there's obviously some things that go on with, the alleged reshoots for Justice League. I mean, let me rephrase that. I know reshoots happen for Justice League. I still am not entirely positive which were reshoots and which aren't, because I don't care. But anyway, point being, he is still a positive light for the DCEU. So getting him reaffirmed to it is a huge win for Warner Brothers, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's still an asset, and again, people really like his Batman. His performance in Justice League took a little bit of grief, especially because of the reshoot stuff. But I don't think anyone thinks he's not any. Someone does, but for the most part, people think he's a good Batman. And if he likes what Matt Reeves is doing, if he decides that he wants to keep doing this, I think that would be awesome. I'd be all for it. So I hope it's true. Again, I'm all like you. I'm not getting my hopes up because anything could change. But it was nice to get cool rumors as opposed to like more Sturm and Drang rumors.
Right.
Speaking of rumors, though, maybe Ben Affleck has always wanted to punch the Penguin in the mouth. Maybe that's what's going on, because the other big rumor of the week is that the Penguin is being eyed as either the main villain for the Batman or as the villain for Birds of Prey. This comes from Variety reporter Justin Kroll. He said this. He said, "Take this with a grain of salt, as things are constantly changing in the DCEU, but I'm hearing the Penguin is possibly the choice to play the main villain in the Batman. Sources add, even if Reeves decides to go another route, the studio could make him the main villain in Birds of Prey. Reeves is still working on the script, so that could always change, but of the multiple Birds of Prey scripts submitted, one does have the Penguin as the main heavy. Either way, it seems WB wants this character cast in the universe sooner rather than later." So this came out a couple days ago. Again, interesting to think about. I know what your reaction was, Jamie, but just for everyone at home.
I'm not sure how much I buy into this. And I say that I'm no psychology major or anything, but that initial tweet, guy gives himself 4 different outs on this being possibly not true or accurate.
Right.
4 different outs and 1 tweet.
Yeah.
4. So my theory is
not 3.
I don't
4.
think he believes it any more than I do at this point, but it's a slow news week on DCEU stuff, so they're running with what they got. Now, I don't know what's his name, Justin Kroll or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know him. I don't know who he works for. I don't know what he does. I don't know any of that stuff because I don't care. But obviously, it must carry some weight because I noticed a lot of people immediately started running with this like crazy. And I don't.
Well, he's from Variety, and I think that lends a lot.
That carries a little more weight.
Yeah, that carries more weight. It's not like he works for some fan site.
Okay.
So the fact that he works for Variety, I think, is a lot because he had to have heard something. I guess let me say that. He had to have heard something because if you work for Variety, you're not just going to throw random shit out there like some fan sites will to drive traffic. Variety doesn't need to drive traffic.
Yeah, see, we don't know who the source is. The source could be the coffee gopher that runs to the boardroom. And he could have been in there dropping off everybody's lattes, and somebody could have said to Matt Reeves, so what do you think of the Penguin? And Matt could have said, I'd like Penguin. I wouldn't mind using Penguin one of these days. And that could have been how this thing was sourced out for all we know. The coffee gopher. No idea. I really don't have any idea. This is all just, I'm pulling it right out of my rear end as I'm talking about it here. So I have zero opposition to it. And for the record, I have zero opposition to Josh Gad playing the Penguin because I haven't seen him do something so bad that I think that it would be a horrible idea for him to do it. Obviously, he's playing it like he's into it, so for whatever that's worth. But I have no problem with it. I know in the comics right now, Penguin seems to kind of be not a huge recurring thorn in the side of Batgirl and the Birds of Prey in those books, but he's shown up there and he hasn't shown up in many of the other books that I can think of off the top of my head. So, I mean, putting him in a Birds of Prey movie probably makes as much sense as putting him in a Batman movie at this point. However, flip side of that is I really want Harley to be the primary bad guy in the Birds of Prey movie. I don't want her to be a good guy in that. I want them going after her, not her teaming up with them to go after him, if you follow what I'm saying there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I got pluses and minuses in either way. I have no objection to Penguin being the villain in Batman or Birds of Prey, but I see nothing to get my excitement or blood pressure up about it in either case at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, much like the Affleck stuff, it's a rumor. Take it with much salt, and even he says take it with a grain of salt. And your point is well taken, but at the same time, he doesn't need to even give himself an out because no one else does. Everyone else just throws stuff out there because if it doesn't happen, it's really easy to go, oh yeah, well, plans change.
Well, look, if he came out and said, hearing the Penguin might be the villain in the next Batman movie, more on this later or something like that. Now I'm paying more attention to this from a Variety writer who keeps track of this stuff. But the wishy-washiness of changing not leaving that outdoor open 4 different times in one tweet, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm off base in that thought process, but that's where I'm at with it.
No, and I mean, who knows? Who knows? But again, he's from Variety. He didn't have to say anything. The fact that he brought it up means that there are discussions happening on with Penguin. I think there are discussions happening. Who knows where it'll land? But even let's assume that that's going to happen. People asked us our reaction. You're all for it. You're all for Josh Gad. Penguin's never been my favorite, as you know, but he's certainly due for another big screen interpretation, so I have no problem with getting a new movie Penguin. I'm actually looking forward to it. I would love to see a new version of the Penguin, so I'm supportive of that. As for Josh Gad, I would certainly give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not my first choice because I think it would be really hard for me to see him as threatening. I love the guy. I actually find him incredibly entertaining, and by all accounts, he is a sweetheart of a human being, but I just don't find him threatening or scary. Maybe he's got it in him. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he would surprise us. I still like my choice from our casting episode 100 years ago that we did. I'm still saying Stanley Tucci. Just give him a fat suit. I think he could rock it, but I'd be all for it. If it were to have my choice, of course, I would put Penguin in Birds of Prey. I would much rather see him in Birds of Prey than in the Batman, because I think we've got better options for the Batman, but I do want to see the Penguin enter the DC Films universe, and so for me, Birds of Prey would make a lot of sense, because he's a bird. It'd Be perfect.
I would like when they put me in charge of that, because I'm already in charge of Aquaman's marketing. So now they're going to put me in charge of this. I'm going to have Penguin in the Birds of Prey film, and I'm going to have Harley hiding in the Iceberg Lounge, whether he knows it or not. And I'm going to have the Birds of Prey show up at the Iceberg Lounge and say, we want Harley and we want her now. And Penguin's going to be like, well, yeah, make me. And, have a second act action sequence breakout in the Iceberg Lounge. And then, it's back to focusing on Harley for the third act.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
When I'm in charge, that's what's going to happen. But I'm not in charge yet. I'm lobbying for the position. Not happening yet.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm for it. I would like to see a new version, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But interesting to think about nonetheless. And then we got one last little thing this week. I like that, a couple weeks ago we did an episode, it was all TV news, and this week it's almost all movie stuff, which is exciting. Jeff Johns released a little teaser on his Facebook page, and it says WW84, and it looks kind of like a staticky old TV, but colorful. Does that make sense? Does that sound about right?
Sure.
So it's a banner. And then Patty Jenkins updated her Twitter banner to include the WW84. And
my only question with this is, what happened to World War III through 83? All right, that was a bad one. I know. I'm sorry. I'll go back to being quiet now. I'll go back to being Teller.
Listen, Teller. But apparently last week Warner Brothers registered a bunch of domain names, and one of those was Wonder Woman 1984. So this is leading to people to believe that Wonder Woman 2 will actually be called Wonder Woman 1984. Thoughts?
I'm kind of indifferent on it. I mean, it's exciting to know that they're starting to crank that up a little bit. I mean, that yesterday was the first anniversary of the movie's release in the U.S., right?
Yes.
I mean, isn't that
today?
Was it today?
I think it's today.
I don't know. Anyway, I assume that's why they did it, is because it was the 1 year anniversary. But anyway, I until I see a little bit more, I don't find anything overly compelling about it. I'm not opposed to an 80s setting for the film. I'm not opposed to being Wonder Woman 1984. I mean, that title doesn't. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm whelmed by that title, if that's the case.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm more excited about what it implies than the title itself. The title itself is a little weird. Like, if that's what it actually is called, is Wonder Woman 1984, that's a kind of a weird title for a sequel. But I love that they're completely leaning into the 80s-ness of it. I'm a child of the 80s. You are too. And so I love the idea of this, another period piece, like staying in line with the idea of period pieces for these movies, but doing it in the 80s. And just this image has that very 80s feel, almost Stranger Thingsy, almost. And I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be super cool. It has allegedly gone into production this week.
We're going to get set photos any day of Diana Prince walking out of a movie theater from seeing Ghostbusters.
Oh, perfect. See? Already I'm sold. But yeah, so again, it's a little weird for a title, but I just love that they're going to completely lean into the 80s-ness of it and have fun with that. That's exciting to me. So I'm excited to see more. I really expected like the official press release like we got for the first Wonder Woman, where it was that image of her in the hood, and it was like, oh, Wonder Woman starts production today, and it announced the rest of the cast and everything.
Yeah, but WB's really in that low-key mode for this stuff right now.
Yeah. So more as it develops, but kind of fun. Anyway, there you go. That's all the news that's fit to print for this week. Nothing super earth-shattering, but little tidbits that are fun to chat about. And now you guys are up to date, and we'll see what happens as we progress. But something that we will continue to do, and we have really picked back up on because you told us you wanted it, and that is our reviews of Batman the Animated Series. And so it is time for yet another episode review from the classic series Batman the Animated Series. last time we did Make 'em Laugh, and then we realized that the next episode was a Mr. Freeze episode that we just did, Deep Freeze. It was Deep Freeze, which we just did as part of the Mr. Freeze saga, so we didn't want you guys to have to hear that twice. So go back and listen to that. And so we jumped ahead to Batgirl Returns. And now this is the final episode of Batman the Animated Series, because then it comes back as the new Batman Adventures. So this is as it says, a Batgirl-centric episode. Batman is out of town, and so Gotham is being watched by Batgirl and Robin. Batgirl runs into Catwoman because of a robbery of a cat statue, and Catwoman swears that she's innocent and wants to know who did this. And so she and Batgirl have a bit of a team up, but more of a not quite trusting collaboration. But they team up. Robin is keeping an eye on them because Robin doesn't think that we can trust Catwoman. And this leads them out on an adventure trying to figure out who stole this statue and why. And we find out that it was Roland Daggett. And Roland Daggett was framing Catwoman as well as going to make some money off this statue. And so Batgirl and Catwoman end up in a tight spot. Robin swoops in to save them. They defeat Daggett just in time for Catwoman to snatch that statue and run off with it. And Batgirl stops her. They had a deal. Catwoman gives herself up for a minute, and as soon as she drives off in the police car, she manages to turn things around, get the cops out of the car, and she is free once again. So there you go. Batgirl Returns. Jamie, thoughts on the episode?
It seemed a little strange to you that like this is the quote unquote end of an era for the series called Batman the Animated Series, and Batman is barely in it.
I know. It's like the final episode of the Brady Bunch where Mike Brady wasn't in it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
The final episode of the Brady Bunch did not have Mike Brady. He was off on a business trip.
Contract dispute or what?
It was because he thought the script was so bad for that episode, he refused to be in it.
All right, then.
It's the one where Greg washes his hair and it turns bright orange.
I've never seen that one.
It's not the most famous one.
I was going to say they must not have aired it a lot in reruns for a reason.
Yeah. Mike Brady was not, or Robert Reed. He had a valid point. It's not their best episode.
All right, then. So anyway, this Batgirl Returns. I dig seeing Batgirl. I do. I love the opening sequence. I mean, you kind of get the feeling right away that it's not actuality, which I don't know why they play around so much with not actuality when it comes to Batgirl, but and for some reason it still works for me. Like her jumping up and kind of, into the moonlight silhouette thing. I mean, that was great. The interactions between her and Catwoman I thought were fairly solid. This is still my favorite look for Catwoman. The gray suit is my favorite look. And for some reason, they both have the same black plate that sits kind of on their forehead for their mask. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah.
Whatever. That's being nitpicky. Animation in a couple spots I thought was maybe a little bit off, but overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was good seeing Batgirl and Robin kind of do the Batman and Robin thing together. And it shows, as much as we all love seeing Batman, it shows that Bat Family can take care of business when he's not around. Mm-hmm. Which hopefully one of these days we'll get that more in live action format too. Yeah.
I mean, I do think that even though it's the final episode, these were for syndication, so they didn't treat it like a final episode. It's just another episode. I loved it. I love stories where Batman is gone and it's up to the Bat Family to watch Gotham. I've always enjoyed that. And so I love that that's what this is. We get a little cameo from Bruce Wayne on the phone being like, all right, keep an eye on things. I trust you guys. But that's it. I love that it's a Batgirl-centric episode. I think she's great. I mean, she really takes the lead here. And I don't remember this one super well, but I also loved the idea of her teaming up with Catwoman, having the two of them on an adventure, and then Robin just kind of in the background. So it's very unique in that way. I love that. I liked it's a mystery. I liked seeing their partnership. and seeing how that went. I liked that Catwoman just can't help herself sometimes, being very much her. She wants to know who did it. She's out for justice. And then as soon as she gets the moment, she takes the stuff on her own. I loved watching that all play out. So yeah, this is a great episode. I loved it.
I love the closing thing. I mean, we all know I'm not the biggest Catwoman fan in the world, but there are times when Catwoman works for me. For the most part in this episode, she does. And I especially like the close out of this episode of, I said I'd let him take me. I didn't say how far. I just, that worked for me. I thought that was a good line. I like that.
Well, and it's funny because, yeah, I agree with you. And before that, first of all, I like when Batgirl made the deal, I was like, Batgirl, come on. Catwoman's going to tell you whatever you want to hear, but do you really think she's going to stick with it? Where she was like, oh, if I found out you were lying, you'll turn yourself in.
She still knew.
Yeah. Catwoman's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, come on. But then when that moment comes where she goes, we had a deal. And Catwoman's like, you're right, we did. And she gives herself up. I was like, what? Come on. Catwoman doesn't give herself up. And so I love that as soon as that car drove off, 5 seconds later, both of those cops come flying out of the car, and Catwoman's like, okay, I did my part. I kept my word. I was like, okay, good. That redeemed it, because if Catwoman had truly surrendered and just drove off with the cops, I'd kind of call BS. But it's perfect that she immediately had an escape plan and she immediately did it.
Yeah, I thought it worked pretty well. Daggett's a bastard. I can't stand that guy. But that means they're doing their job right, so.
What was interesting about this one is they referenced old episodes with Daggett.
Yeah, with the virus and stuff.
Yeah, which I was like, oh, okay. Because they tend to not do that too much. Again, because they're syndicated, because stations will show them in whatever order they want. And so they don't tend to reference other episodes, but this one did. Which I thought was interesting.
You, of all people, would know the answer to this question. The theme that plays when Batgirl shows up in a couple spots during this episode, is that actually like Batgirl's theme, or is that something they just cycled out from somewhere else and used for her?
Oh, I didn't even notice. I'd have to go back and check it out.
Anyway, I liked it. The music I thought was good.
Nice.
I did not like the whole Batman going in for the kiss thing. I mean, obviously at that point I knew what I was watching, but at the same time I'm like, nah, this.
Yeah, I loved the opening dream sequence. Number one, I just loved the idea of it was Joker, Penguin, Two-Face all at once. I still geek out about those.
The minute all three of them showed up and Batman went down as quick as he did, I was like, yeah, this is her having a fantasy about bailing him out. So
right. So I really liked that. And then as soon as they kind of showed Batgirl's crush on Batman, I was like, oh God, is this where it all started? But it doesn't bother me here because it always made sense that Batgirl would have a crush on Batman.
I agree, but they've also established at this point that, at least I think at this point, I got my continuity all out of whack. She's kind of got a romantic thing going on with Dick at this point too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, not that you can't be attracted to two people at once, and dreams do crazy things anyway, but
she's like, Barbara is dating Dick, but Batgirl has a crush on Batman.
Okay. Split personality. I'll take it.
And that makes perfect sense to me.
I can accept it better, her having some sort of a feeling toward him, but him taking action on that. Well, listen to the Killing Joke episode for my thoughts on that.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I was like, oh God, is this where it all started? But here it's the right, for me, the right balance of what it should be.
I want, before I forget to call it out, the part where she calls Gordon like a senile old fool.
Yes.
And Barbara gets that look, that scowl on her face. I love that. I thought that was great.
I know that was awesome. And yeah, there was a certain point where Catwoman's even like, hey, join me. We'll be unstoppable. So I would read that book. I know the Batgirl can't, she won't, but I'd read a Batgirl and Catwoman adventure.
Yeah, why not?
I just love the idea of teaming up the two of them. I think that's such a great idea for an episode, and the episode delivered as far as I was concerned.
It's not something you commonly find. I can't think of a single reference. I know it's out there. There's a lot of history we're talking. I'm still reading stuff, folks. I can't think of a single example in the comics where the two of them have just kind of teamed up and done their own thing, independent of anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Me either. And I think that was it, is when it happened, I went, why has this never happened before? Or if it has, again, it's obscure and I've never seen it. But it just seemed like such a no-brainer. And then I went, what a great idea. It's perfect. And then Robin having to eat a little crow and admit that he was wrong.
He's such a dick.
Oh, that he is.
Somebody had to say it. I mean, everybody's thinking it.
So, anyway, closing thoughts, letter grade, Batgirl Returns.
Fun episode, very enjoyable. I thought it was mostly well done. I enjoyed the music, especially the Batgirl music cues that were in it, whether they were for her. I mean, they seem familiar to me from somewhere else, and I can't remember if it was from the other Batgirl episode or if it's just one of those recycled music things that they do from time to time. It's an episode I'd watch again and feel pretty painless about. I don't think it was anything that I'd put an upper echelon, but certainly an enjoyable and worthwhile watch. For me, it's a B+.
Nice. And like I said, I loved it. I didn't expect to. It's one that I must not have seen a lot, but I loved it. I thought it was a great idea. I loved letting Batgirl have the spotlight and then sharing it with Catwoman. That was super fun. I thought the animation was actually really good in this episode, and then having Robin as the guest star was perfect. So for me, it's a really good one. Rock solid way to end the series before it is resurrected very shortly. So for me, it's an A, because I don't really have any complaints about it.
All right.
I dig it. So there you go. That's the end of Batman the Animated Series. Woo! Celebrate good times. Come on. I feel like we should have some sort of celebration.
We probably should have had this celebration like 9 months ago, but we kind of fell off the wagon about doing these things.
Hey, we do what we can.
That's true.
Life gets in the way. So this means we will be jumping to the new Batman Adventures next time, and the first episode of that is Holiday Nights. So I don't know how I feel. I feel a little conflicted because we're going to be watching a Christmas episode in the middle of summer.
Christmas in July, a month early. There you go.
Yeah. Or we just wait till July and do it then.
No, we're on a good streak. We should stick with this. I don't want to fall off the wagon again.
That's true. Good point. So, well done. I feel some sort of sense of accomplishment. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm going to grab my beer and tip back on that.
Yeah, that one was for you guys out there, for you listeners who wanted it. And so thank you for that. And now we are going to hear more from you as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Derek, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger.
This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, first message here is from Todd Johnson. It says, "Hey guys, I was just getting ready to write you to ask about a season 4 of Gotham episode. And lo and behold, there it was. Get out of my brain. I love Gotham, and like most, I dropped out early only to come back, and for some reason started loving it. I decided to give it another shot with new eyes, forget all I know of Batman, and just watch the show as it's my first intro to these characters. After I let go of my hang-ups and stubbornness, I truly was able to enjoy it. In fact, I've gone back and watched other films and TV with new eyes only to have a new appreciation for those as well. I think since there's so much content out now, when there used to be so little, I started looking at these things as an adult, as the adult I am, instead of the child that loved this stuff. Relax, everyone. This is a great time to be alive. Anyway, it's just a long way of saying, great episode, guys. Your friend, Odd Todd." Thanks, Todd. Thank you for the message. And yes, we did read your mind. It's what we do here. You're welcome.
See, I listened to that episode, and about 5 or 6 different times during it, you guys were explaining what happened. All I could say out loud in the car was, "Honky, what?" Honky, I'm taking it back, people. Honky.
It's weird. It's a weird one. But I hear what Todd's saying here, because there are certain things where, like, if you let go of certain hang-ups, you can enjoy things for what they are.
You know what? I watched like I don't know if it was the first half of the first season or whatever it was. And I eventually just got to the point where, and I never hated the show. I never did. I truly didn't. My problem was I had so many other shows that I was trying to watch and keep up with that for something that I just thought was kind of middle of the road, I didn't have room on the DVR for it anymore. So that's why I cut it loose. I mean, it's not that I find it so horribly offensive or anything. I mean, it's definitely odd. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't something I felt super compelled to stick with, you know.
I understand. We've talked about it many times.
3 or 4
There's too
shows
much out
every
there.
year on that same basis. Like I just dropped Blind Spot at the end of the 3rd season because I'm not interested enough to make sure that I stay current 22 times a year. It just doesn't pan out for me. Mm-hmm. And with DC and CW and all this other stuff, adding more shows, same thing. Krypton, I didn't hate Krypton. I didn't really like it, but I didn't hate it, so I tapped out on that after 4 or 5 episodes, whatever it was, just because there's too much content out there for me to watch something that I don't really want to sit down and watch every week, you know?
I understand. But yeah, I agree with you, Todd, and I think that's how I enjoy Gotham on its own terms of being like, listen, I'm not trying to match this up with the movie Batman or the comic Batman. I'm not trying to make it work into some other continuity. I just watch it as its own, and I can enjoy it on those terms. It happens with movies, you know? Sometimes you let your baggage go. I can't tell you how many movies I went to see and hated because they're bad movies, legitimately bad movies. And then over the years, I go back and revisit them because they're still bad movies, but I like watching them. You know, one that Jamie and I talk about all the time is Van Helsing. When I walked out of the theater of Van Helsing, I was kind of heartbroken because it's not a good movie. And then over the years, I'm like, no, it's a pretty dumb movie, but I still kind of like it.
I dig that movie. I really do. I refuse to apologize for it either.
Well, I'm fully aware that it's got problems, but there's enough in there that I enjoy it. And so be it. And I have a lot of movies like that.
Well, look, so many times I can say this about so many films, but it definitely applies to Van Helsing too. There was a hell of a really good movie in there somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I think that's what was so heartbreaking is like, man, this was supposed to be like the triumphant return of the Universal monsters, and it was dead on arrival. So
I still love that Frankenstein design too. The
designs are so good. The designs are great. The performances are not great. Anyway, someday we'll talk about Van Helsing. But the point was taken, Todd. Thank you for the message. Next message here is from Tyler Closter. It says, Hey gang, I've been listening to some past episodes that I didn't get around to listening when you first came out, including episode 91 from early 2017. About the top Batman comic book stories as voted by your listeners. I was both intrigued and ever so slightly chagrined that all 20 entries on the list were either graphic novels or multi-issue story arcs, the latter comprising the vast majority. I don't have major quibbles with most entries on the list, hush, cough, cough, but I would have loved to have seen at least a few single-issue stories make the list. In that light, I'd like to propose a follow-up poll and episode. What are the best single-issue Batman comic stories limited solely to the various ongoing comic book series? No multi-issue arcs, no limited series, no graphic novels, so no Killing Joke or Gotham by Gaslight. Annuals are okay, as are tales from issues that contained multiple stories. What do you guys say? I love The Long Halloween in Year One as much as anyone, except Andy, in the case of the latter, but let's see some love for old school single issue stories. See you around the Batcave, Tyler. Tyler, thank you for the message. I love the idea. I think it would just take some doing to figure out what those single issue stories are. I think the reason that people gravitate toward the graphic novels or multi-issue arcs, it's because those are people spend a lot more time with those, and so they stand out more, and the stories can go deeper and longer, which sounds dirty. I apologize. Longer, uncut. Anyway. So no, I like the idea. I would just have to think about some more single issue stories.
Yeah,
Jamie, thoughts?
That's involved, man. You've got a lot of years of continuity to pull out of from that. I mean, you would almost have to break it down, like Rebirth era, New 52, Detective Comics, Batman. doing it for all of those combined, I mean, that's probably weeks worth of work, honestly.
Yeah. Do any, just for fun, any single issues jump out for you? Like that is a single issue story that you're like, you know what? I always loved that one.
The one that I'm going to propose that we do for our Halloween episode this year, which is Action Comics annual number 1, which is Superman and Batman teaming up against vampires.
Okay. Cool.
There's one that I read years ago. This is one of the comics I had before I really collected comics like I had it as a kid that I got from a garage sale with my grandma or something. The cover of it is Superman with, like, I want to say it's like Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman on the cover. You know which one I'm talking about?
I don't
like Dracula or something. Dracula or the Wolfman's get ready to bite him on the neck. It's been years, but I mean that one stands out to me as one that I loved as a kid, but I don't remember a single thing that happened in the book. And that's Superman, not Batman, anyway. So, how did
it become about monsters on this?
Oh, because you got me talking about Action Annual number 1.
I should have never said Van Helsing.
You did. You got my brain switched on Van Helsing. Recently, and don't fall off your couch, ladies and gentlemen, The Brave and the Mold I thought was really good.
Oh, that's right. I remember you. But was that just one issue?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm almost sure it was.
Okay.
I mean, it was like 2 at most, but I'm pretty sure it was just a single issue. Because I was surprised it didn't go on in the next issue. I was like, what happened here?
Interesting.
But,
yeah. I was going to say, I actually really liked Rooftops, but it was 2 issues.
Yep.
And then we've been paying for it ever since.
The only thing I liked about
I liked
Rooftops,
it at the time.
I think Rooftops is the one that introduced the concept of the 2 of them remembering their history differently, paying homage to the different origins that they had together.
Yeah.
So I dug that part of Rooftops, but past that,
yeah. I brought up the Scott Snyder Mr. Freeze annual that was a few years ago, which I really liked. When I think about single issues, Man Who Falls is my go-to because it's like so influential and it's just 1 issue. So that's a big one.
Most of my Batman reading, honestly, is condensed format stuff, other than Rebirth era. I mean, obviously, I've kept up with that.
Yeah, and then that Christmas one that we did, that was the Silent Night of the Batman.
Yeah,
that one was amazing. I loved that one because I'm a sucker for Batman and Christmas. So that one was just a 1 issue one.
Yeah, but
I do miss when I could pick up a book and read a story, and that was the end of the story. I miss that. I always get excited when that can happen these days.
I know. Even some of the graphic novel formats don't make it easy anymore to do that. Like Dark Prince Charming, I love that book. I mean, obviously the second part doesn't come out until, I think, later this month, but the first one, I mean, they literally could have just released that as 1 premium format book, but they had to separate it into 2 for some reason. I don't get that. But it goes with what you're saying. It's like you can't just get one and done storytelling anymore because they want to sell you the next issue as well as the one you're holding.
Mm-hmm. I know. I get it. It's a business thing. I get it. I just love being able to just go pick up a book and not worry about, knowing where the hell we are in the story. I miss it. Call me an old man if you must. All right, one last email here. This is from Douglas June. It says, "Greetings, Holy BatCast family. Which actress do you think could have played Cheetah in the 90s? I always thought Julia Roberts would have been a perfect choice, especially if Wonder Woman was played by Gina Davis." Douglas, what a fun question. Thank you for sharing. I have my choice, Jamie, but I'm going to let you go first. Or any idea, who would you make Cheetah in the 90s, assuming Gina Davis played Wonder Woman?
I don't have any objection to the Julia Roberts choice. Let me think here. 90s actresses that I really like, other than Gina Davis. I don't know. I'd have to give that one some thought for a minute. I don't have anything coming to the top of my head here.
That's okay. For me, Demi Moore.
That would have worked.
I always thought, like, when she was badass, she was really good, Like G.I. Jane, like, I loved her in that. And I think that she had like a great villain role in her, and and that never really happened.
They tried with Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, but
yeah, she was probably my favorite part of that movie.
I don't hate that movie, but man, it's a train wreck.
It's not a great movie, but I think she was the best part of it. And so yeah, like in her prime in the 90s, I think she would have been a great Cheetah versus Gina Davis as Wonder Woman. I think that would have been great. That's my choice. I'm
just cycling through in my head actresses from like the late 80s to late 90s, and I nothing is registering with me at all for it.
That's all right. Think about it. But anyway, that's the last email we got. Thank you, everybody who wrote in. If you've got an email for us, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Thank you to everybody who does. We do love hearing from you, and it's fun to answer your questions. And also thank you to everybody who takes time to leave us an iTunes review. It's quick, it's easy, it's the simplest thing you can do to help us out. So if you've never left us an iTunes review, please do. It's very helpful. We did get a more recent one, so I want to read it to you. It is from our pal, Philip Barker. And number one, I'm shocked that you have not written an iTunes review until now, Phil. What the heck? What have you been doing with your time? But we appreciate it. We do. We know you don't have to. Anyway, this is what he says. He says, Holy Podcast, Batman. He says, this is the Batman podcast that every Bat fan should tune into. Andy, Jamie, and the wide variety of guests meet up every week or so to talk Batman and subsequently DC-related content. It's always a wondrous occasion to download an episode of Holy BatCast due to the sheer amount of love and commitment to the character that is present in this show. Kudos to all involved, and keep up the great work, guys. Much love. Much love back to you, Phil. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
He's good people.
He is good people. He is. He's one of my favorites, and he always makes me laugh. So yeah, thank you, Phil, for doing that. And again, for those of you out there who have not yet left a review, we would certainly appreciate it. But that is where we're going to wrap up this episode of Holy BatCast. This is a somewhat short one, which is kind of exciting, Jamie. Congrats.
Wow, south of 90 minutes. That's pretty impressive for us.
I know. Are we allowed to do that?
And probably 20 minutes of that was us gabbing before we recorded. So yeah, this is kind of strange.
We did that, I don't know, sometime last month, where it was like a 70-minute episode, and people gave us crap about it, being like, what? Is it possible? So anyway, we're trying to be respectful of your time.
Well, I mean, we could do what so many of these other places do and make up our own news as we go along, but there's a reason I don't follow those clickbait sites, because I don't like that shit.
I'm really excited to announce that the Blue Devil film has indeed been greenlit.
Nice.
And it will be starring none other than Jeff Goldblum.
Well, hey, we'll give the bonus feature of this episode now. Did you happen to read No Justice or Man of Steel yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, so much for that.
Sorry. I'm behind. I've been moving. You know this. I haven't been to the comic shop in a few weeks.
That's tragic.
I'm sure it's piling up. I'm afraid to see what's waiting for me when I go back.
I've got a 3-week stack sitting in front of me now that is not in bags, because I only bag mine in My Lights, and my shop has been out of My Lights for weeks now, and it's starting to hurt my brain looking at these comics sitting here with no bags.
Oh, that is sad. That's tragic.
Worst. Not to mention the fact I know it's going to take me 2 hours to bag them all when I finally get the bags. So, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, but that's kind of fun. I enjoy that. There's something therapeutic about bagging and organizing comic books. I love it.
Drives me crazy, but I have a great sense of accomplishment when I'm done with it. I'll say that much.
I'm a little OCD, so I enjoy organizing.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Anyway, where can the folks at home keep up with you if they would like to?
You can find me on Twitter if I don't decide to explode Twitter within the next couple of days at BatRaider3960. And you can find me in various Real Fans groups on Facebook most days.
Perfect. I already told you guys where to find me, but thank you all for joining us, and thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe on iTunes, leave us a review, and share us with all your friends. Like Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com, like our Holy BatCast page on Facebook, follow us on Twitter or on Instagram or on YouTube, Holy BatCast, and then send any emails, thoughts, questions to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you as always for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. This show is a proud part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can sample all the shows that are part of the network at rf4rm.com. Those shows include Real Fans for Real Movies, the original show that looks back at films, past and present. There's also Holy BatCast, all about Batman and the DC Universe. There's Disorder, every Disney film that looks back at every Disney animated feature in order. There's Taking the Bullet, that looks at bad movies so you don't have to watch them. There's Please Rewind, the RF for RM retro show that looks back at older movies. And finally, there's Grim Grinning Hosts, a salute to all pop culture, but mostly theme parks. Again, you can check out all these shows at rf4rm.com or search for them by name wherever you get your podcasts.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed.
Oh, yes, it has, sir.